Fox here, Managing Editor at tnoozLIVE. We're back with tnoozLIVE TTE. I'm fortunate enough to be joined by Tobias Ragge from HRS, and we're going to talk about all things hotel distribution. Thanks for joining us, Tobias. So tell me, what are the biggest challenges you currently see in hotel distribution and corporate travel?
Well, I think the first big challenge in distribution and corporate travel is that the fragmentation of the market is usually not represented through the traditional channels, meaning that usually the old incumbents, the traditional travel management companies, were heavily reliant on the GDS channel as such, and the GDS only were catering for 25% of global supply. So that was the reason also why there was a big leakage of people basically booking outside of the programs. And today, globally, I think we're saying that 62% of all the travelers, when it comes to accommodation management, leak out of their program because of that content shortage. So that's one dimension. The second dimension is the cost of distribution. It's a debate heavily fueled by the airline industry about the cost of a certain channel, in this regard the GDS. And obviously also from the hotel perspective, it's the same distribution cost debate, because when you usually advertise your inventory through a GDS, the cost will be up to 25% of the entire room rate you're being paid for. So, and this is not because the GDS are not a good system, it's just because it has a lot of layers of other players in the value chain, and that makes it complex and expensive. So I think we have one problem is the fragmentation, not the representation. The second is the cost of it. And these components now tie in with a third fact, that is, you're not really getting what you're negotiating, because corporates heavily rely on their own programs. Usually you can say 50 to 60% of that program, of their entire spend, will run through their program. But we have a lot of issues when it comes to the rate auditing piece. So a lot of the times we see that 20% of the travelers or the corporations are not getting the rates they negotiated for whatever reason. There might be systematic errors, squattering errors, so there's a big challenge here. And I think this is the challenges which the industry and the solution providers of this industry, like ourselves, are looking to address by saying, number one, we want to make sure that we bring all the content which is out there to the corporations, no matter if we connect them directly through Direct Connect with the chains, or if we have to consolidate the inventory by building our own big inventory database. Second, we've built technology to be able to instantly automate and audit the rates and the correctness, and even at some point filter the rates out which are erroneous. So, and taking by Direct Connects also distribution costs down, because we're directly pumping into the CRSs and taking a part of the distribution layer out. So I think that is really what the big challenges are, and we're trying to address them with the solutions we're having.
Okay, thanks for that. And everybody this year is talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning. How can a company like HRS leverage that to improve pricing, to improve analytics, to make sure that travelers are getting what they want, and ultimately the corporates are getting what they want?
Right. Well, first of all, I think the digitization is everywhere and will happen everywhere. So to make use of machine learning, I think if you look at the entire value chain we're covering, it doesn't matter if the sourcing piece, if it's a rate auditing piece, if it's the search and book piece, if you think about payment, anywhere you can use AI and machine learning in order to optimize and automate processes you used to do on a manual basis in the past. Give you one example, this huge matching exercises in the past needed to be done to normalize data. And you always over and over did that manually with a lot of manpower. But obviously that's not really creating a lot of value. So today with machine learning and self-learning systems, you can automate these processes. Or let's think about hotel display. Usually we have a choice paradoxon, so City of London will have more than 1,500 properties. What to present to the traveler, in what ranking order? Yeah, so machine learning can learn obviously about, within a strategic framework obviously of the corporation, which is budget or quality, but can learn about preferences of travelers and then change the ranking order instantly with that traveler coming to the plate. So the recommendation engines, if you want, all of this is fueled by machine learning. So machine learning is able to automate things, drive down the cost, but also drive better solutions for the travelers and increase traveler satisfaction. And we are applying this in all of the aspects. So everything I just mentioned is part of us trying to automate everything we can, because it's about turnaround times. It's about being faster in the solutions provided than what is done today by the industry.
And that sounds like quite a lot of work on the back end and those processes, but what about on the front end in terms of traveller facing? Are you looking at chatbots, technology or voice or any of those kind of things?
Yeah, that's. Thank you for basically putting that question on the table. So the one dimension is obviously what I talked about is more the self-service ecosystem when you do your online transaction, and obviously that's the dominant channel. But nonetheless, there's always an offline component which you also can automate through chatbots and stuff like this. We found out that it depends a little bit on the markets, and also it's also an aging question of the travelers. So the younger the travelers are, the more open they are to text and chat, and markets like China are very open, or even Japan, to these kind of scenarios, where maybe more traditional markets having a certain acceptance issue. And I think this is where we are basically saying we're offering the technology, but we are not making it mandatory to use. So we will offer all the gateways. So we say you can text and use a chatbot if you like it and it's more efficient for you, but you still can call and do the offline. Fortunately today, 99% of all the transaction volume we do is anyway automated on online or mobile. So it's a minor challenge, but we'll make it available.
So talking about younger travelers there for a minute, you invested in a startup called Kenichi, well, probably about 18 months ago, 2 years ago now. Just briefly update us with what Kenichi is up to, and then also tell us how important you feel it is for HRS to work with startups.
Right. So Kenichi is trying to solve the on-stay experience. They're saying, okay, there's no digitized solutions, which is an industry standard yet, because when we look at flights, I mean, everybody has a boarding ticket. I mean, all of this is mobile device based, and we're not carrying any more paper. The hotel industry is completely different. So we have a lot of different taxes, regulations. We need to fill out registrations forms. We need to queue for the check-in or the check-out. There's no way of us for doing mobile payments in the properties. And they said, or even the keyless entry to the rooms. And they said, okay, I think this experience can be digitized to save time for the traveler, give him quality time back. And that is what they are doing. They started with a beacon infrastructure, but now they are also doing it with geofencing solutions. So basically, there's no need for software as a service kind of infrastructure to be installed. It comes at basically no barrier for the hotels to deploy it, because sometimes, especially independent properties, have a difficulty to deploy new technology. And it's totally mobile-based, app-based, so they have a travel app, which they can also integrate as a software development kit into other solutions, be it in a Concur, be it into a Sidetrake or an HRS solution, it doesn't matter. And we're trying to offer that solutions to the traveler in order to increase their traveler convenience. We see huge interest from corporations, and this is really globally, because they're saying we need more convenient solutions, because we want to use travel also as a mean for the war for talent. We need to show our employees we're a digitized company, so we want to create better experience. It's not just about driving down direct costs, but it's creating experiences. So this is where Kenichi is very helpful, and they have a lot of very promising pilots out there, really globally in multiple markets, and it's something where we're happy with the investment we did. Now the second question you asked was, a company like ourselves and the investment in startups as such is obviously we're trying to solve end-to-end the experience from building a professional program to the traveler staying, booking, and paying the hotel, and feeding this into expense systems and automating this whole process. So whatever in that value chain we cannot do ourselves, and we find somebody is smart and can do it better, we will always look out for them and try to make them part of the ecosystem, because at the end, it's not about who invents something, it's about can we provide a holistic solution fast enough for the traveler and the companies we're working with. So for us, it's a big topic. We've made multiple investments also in other players, be it on the meetings and groups fields with a company called Mitago, who has automated the whole RFP piece there, be it in a company like Italia, who is an expert in payment solutions, and we will continue to do so. So for us, it's a key also in our innovation strategy.
Okay. So one final thing, you can't really have a conversation about accommodation online without talking about Airbnb. Now obviously they've just announced their first integration with SiteMinder and hotels on the system. So, what's your view on that, and would HRS look to do kind of the opposite and bring in some of what's probably no longer alternative accommodation?
Right. So I think the answer is twofold. First is the question, is the inventory needed for corporate professional travel? The answer is yes, it's needed. Nonetheless, it's a niche topic. It's heavily discussed because a lot of the travelers are using it for private travel. When we look at data and big companies like we're working with, for example, Google, who has a heavy exposure in a market like New York or San Francisco, where you have a lot of their peer-to-peer content, they will use it quite heavily in these destinations, but globally it makes maybe 5% of the inventory. So it's a definite topic, but I think it's a niche topic first of all. It's more also for project-based business rather than the 1-2 night overnight stays. But it's a topic everybody needs to deal with. So what we are saying, we basically need to make sure that the content the customer wants we make available. So, and if it's Airbnb, we try to make Airbnb available, but integrated in a homogeneous process. I think this is where Airbnb still needs to solve certain questions, because customers don't want punch-out solutions into different booking tools. They want to keep it integrated in their mandated channels. And that's where we're having talks with them to see, can we as a team also overcome this? Because again, we're on a mission to help the customer overcome his challenges and fix his needs, and Airbnb is one of these things, so we're addressing this. The other component is what you're talking about, the integration of hotel-like content into their marketplace. Well, I think you need to look at this from this point. They have massive customer base, they have massive traffic, and sometimes probably some of the customer needs cannot be fulfilled just with the peer-to-peer content, so that they open up their marketplace. So for me, it's just a natural evolution and a consequent move. And I think also, like we've seen OTAs and meta search blur more and migrate in terms of model, the same we'll see between an OTA hotel or an alternative accommodation. At the end, it's the question of accommodation. And the content will merge together, and I think we'll see more of that.
Tobias, thank you for joining us.
Sure.
So just leaves me to thank our sponsors, OTA Insight and Cogen, and we'll be back shortly.